Hey, somebody hit the go button, please.
I met a man today who looked like he was homeless, but he wasn't alone. He had his dog to keep him company. So I said, man, you look like you could use a decent meal. Why don't you take this sandwich that my girl made for me? And he said, we don't eat bologna. We don't eat bologna. We don't eat bologna. We don't. Phony scenes, fake magazines, caught in the machine behind the TV. They don't want us to see. Maybe it's not exactly as it seems. There's something going on. Why can't we be honest? Why can't we be honest? So I said, man, I didn't intend to talk politics with you. So if you don't mind, I'll be on my way. Have a nice day.
You are listening to the Tellanova podcast. I'm your host, Nova J. Phoenix. How is life? Do you have something to say? Maybe you have a story about escaping a cult as well. Or is your house haunted? Or have you been having lunch with Bigfoot? Or maybe you have a mother-in-law who is sure you didn't ruin their family on purpose. If you have a story to tell, send me an email at mystory@tellanovapodcast.com. I want to thank everyone who listened to episode 1. The first episode ranked way higher than I was expecting, so I'm very excited about that. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and interact there as well. So now I'm going to get right back into my story. So here we go. Parental warning. This episode contains sexually explicit language. So my parents met in the Children of God cult. My dad was excommunicated from the group because he was too old at 38. So he took my mom and his two teenage sons across the country on a Grand Theft Auto adventure, stealing cars and audio equipment from churches to fund his mission to start a religious cult in France. In the last episode, I fast-forwarded to my life at age 17 when my dad brought home a second wife who claimed to be an interdimensional being from Saturn who is sent by God to save my dad from his demon-possessed wife so he could be an important player in the soon-to-come end times apocalypse. So that's kind of the scaffolding around the story, and in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to fill in some details. I have a question. Is magic real? We all grew up watching movies and television shows full of heroes who possessed power we all wish we ourselves could possess. I mean, imagine if you could actually fly like Superman. I remember vividly being 5 years old and actually believing I could fly because I had very vivid dreams of flying. I still remember my dreams from that age of being able to fly. I remember the excitement and the emotion from it. I believed it so much that I told my dad that I could fly. I built some wings out of cardboard boxes and told my dad that I climbed a tree and jumped off the top of the tree and flew around. It was a lie. I didn't. He didn't tell me it's impossible. So I decided to actually do it. I took my little cardboard box wings and I started climbing a tree. But my dad caught me and he told me to come down. He told me, "You can't fly right now. It's too dangerous." I wish he had caught me when I decided to jump off the roof of a house with an umbrella after watching Mary Poppins at the age of 7. That pain taught me, okay, I can't fly. It's not real. It's just a movie. And I was very sad. And I stopped flying in my dreams as well. It felt like knowing you're Superman and then having your ability to fly taken. And now I have to live life as a mortal. It's a sad day for a 7-year-old boy. I'm going to continue the story now about this woman who claimed to be an interdimensional being. Flying is one of the superpowers she claimed to have. And I'm going to continue this flying thread here in just a little bit. But let's start with her arrival at our home. Now, because my dad was still trying to start a religious cult of his own, I was used to people coming in and out of our lives like this. My parents had many transient sexual partners cycle in and out of our group. So this woman showing up in this way was not exactly out of the ordinary, but it was different than the others. Her full story was fed to us in stages, not all at once. It started with her telling everyone that she had a direct line to Jesus. Number one on Jesus' checklist was dealing with my mom's demons. So she and my dad locked my mom in a bedroom for a month, performing exorcism rituals to exorcise my mom's demons. Now, after a month of rituals and isolation, the exorcism was declared a success. But now there was a new problem. The demons were in the house. So the alien stepmother used her Jesus Redline phone to get instructions for how to deal with this. And we were all told to leave the house for a day so she could exorcise the house. Because these were very special, very powerful demons who had been sent on a special mission because my dad was a very special person and it was important for Satan to employ the strongest, most powerful demons to make sure that the job was done. So we all left for the day, and when we returned, the inside of the house looked like it had been hit by a tornado. There were holes in the walls. The furniture was ripped up, pots and pans everywhere, appliances destroyed. The stepmother had cuts on her arms and her face. And worst of all, every television was busted. Oh man, that's too much. Okay, now let's continue on the subject of flying. I understand growing up with as much Bible learning as I had put your mind in a little bit different state than what I would guess most people experience as a child when there was so much emphasis on spiritual gifts that were listed in the book of Acts. Faith as a mustard seed can literally move mountains, right? People raising from the dead, the blind gaining their sight, walking on water, which is the same as flying in my mind. We were taught faith, believe, faith. All the magic happens in faith and belief. But guess what was not happening? Magic. There was no magic. I saw people getting sick and dying. I saw mountains that needed to be moved that went nowhere. It was all talky talk. But your parents are the oracles to reality until you reach a certain age. Now, when I was reaching that age, when my parents were losing their oracle status, all this crazy stuff started happening. So, after this exorcism event, we were inside the house, and outside there was a loud crashing sound, and everyone rushed to the front of the house where the sound came from. And there on the porch was the stepmom. She was sitting on her butt and holding her head in pain and looking up at the awning above, which was damaged. And my dad helped her up, and everyone was asking what happened. And I turned to my sister because she was wearing a smirk on her face. And I said, "What's going on?" And as everyone was dispersing, she said in a low tone, she was flying. And she hit the awning. I said, "What do you mean she was flying?" She said, "I said she was flying. She can fly." Then my sister walked away. What? Now, today, I can't say with 100% certainty that she wasn't flying. If she was creating an illusion for show, she was good at it. She was pretty good at it. I mean, who puts a knot on their head for an illusion? Besides pro wrestlers. The damage on the awning was higher than she can reach, as some of this is kind of bizarre. Now, I've done a lot of delving into metaphysics, and there are people today who will look you in the eye and tell you they've seen people who can levitate, and it's not a trick. So they're either telling the truth or they're not. I wouldn't be able to know for sure unless I do it myself. Even witnessing it still can be an illusion. I would have to actually know I'm not on wires and levitate or fly myself before I would know if it's not possible or possible. I guess you can't know it's not possible, but you can know it is possible. I want to say 100% this woman was a con artist, but there's a seed in my mind that asks, what if she really could do some of these things? But it's not like you think. If we are creating our own reality with our beliefs and co-creating a reality together, maybe a metaphysical miracle will work in a group who all believe. But if there's one doubter, it ruins the whole game. It's just a thought. I don't know. I know nothing. Okay, moving on. At that time, we lived up in the mountains, and the driveway to get to our house was 1.8 miles long, and it was very steep and full of switchback corners. I tell you that to set up the next two little things I have to tell you. I wasn't there for this, but my dad told me that he and the stepmom were driving down this driveway and the motor in her Honda Civic threw a rod. Now, I know that my dad knew what that was because he was terrible at changing oil, and we had had a couple of cars that did that on the highway. So that wasn't that unusual of a thing. He knew what it was like when an engine threw a rod. And what he told me was that when the engine threw a rod, he was explaining to the stepmom what just happened. And after a few minutes, she said, "No, I don't want that. The engine is good to go." And she started it up, and they drove away like nothing happened. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you related to this driveway is about our family car. Now, my dad had a love for school buses. This was a big trend in the 60s and 70s to take a school bus and convert it to a motorhome. So when we moved up into the mountains, we had two school buses, a long bus and a short bus. And my dad managed to drive both of those school buses up that switchback road almost 2 miles long with hairpin corners and potholes and trenches dug through it from creeks. It was a feat that all these overlanding experts you see on YouTube today would have been impressed with. We had nothing but junk cars, and at one point, the only family car we had to be dropped off at school was the short bus with rainbows painted on it. Oh, fun times. Okay, so the exorcism and the flying incident, right? A few weeks later, my dad and the stepmom left on a business trip. And then my mom received a letter in the mail from my dad telling her that he was not coming back. He cleaned out the checking account and left her with nothing to pay the bills or for food for 5 kids. So it's like, okay, this game isn't fun anymore. My dad and my stepmother came back and took 3 of us with them. And at the time, I didn't know about all the other supernatural claims that were to come in the future. I was about to get schooled in mind reading, telekinesis, hypnosis, miraculous healing, and time travel. Okay, so let's take a break from the story timeline and put some scaffolding around some metaphysical ideas I've been talking about. Now, there are examples of success in what my dad and my stepmother were attempting to do. They were trying to create a group of followers. And I'm pretty sure my dad's main goal was to have followers so that he could be adored. And I think it was primarily sex driven. He wanted to have a lot of sex. Pretty sure that's what it was. But also the adoring. And like I said, there are examples of success in what my dad and my stepmom were attempting to do. And they're not exactly the same, but it's the same kind of thing, right? Dolores Cannon, the Chandler, Paul Anka, Bashar, the Arancha book, Scientology. These have rather large followings. They have different messages, but also some similarities. From watching them try to do it, what I know is it's not that easy. So I'm kind of curious if the success of these other groups has something to do with support from some central power. Yes, a conspiracy theory is forming here. It's just a question, but I suspect that even the Jesus People and the Family International were not grassroots organizations, but were controlled opposition against an awakening to the illusion of government power. It's just a question. I don't know anything. It's just a question. Like I said, it's not so easy to get something like that going. My dad and stepmother had the tools. They had ambition, charisma, intelligence, drive, and no morals. They had no morals. Should have been a slam dunk, but that's not what happened. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that these other groups had help from influencers of their day. Followers of the Arancha book, for example, had people like the co-founder of Celestial Seasonings, Celestial Seasons, the tea company, Mo Siegel. They had Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jerry Garcia. And now Daryl Anka, the channel for Bashar, he has public support from Danica Patrick on her podcast. Abraham Hicks has public support from Oprah, Will Smith, and Jim Carrey. And back in the day, the Jesus People and the Family International, they had Fleetwood Mac. I'm just saying, if you wake up tomorrow and you say to yourself, hey, something doesn't seem right here. Church seems hypocritical and empty. And I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to slave away at a job I hate, to pay taxes and have no life. If you say, I feel like there's more here to what is going on, where do you go for answers? There is a sea of information, and it's kind of a quagmire, and you can easily get lost and give up. So, is that by design? It's just a question. It's just a question. But there were a ton of people disenfranchised from the apple pie and American flag war drum beat in the 60s and 70s, if I was in power and I saw a grassroots movement developing around the idea that people don't need the institutions anymore, I would want to steer that back on track, you know. But you can't just do it like a race car. You can't just grab the steering wheel and bring it on track. It's going to be more like curling, you know. You got to brush the ice in front of the puck. Well, I don't know nothing. It's just a question. Just a question. Okay, so I'm going to put a bookmark in the alien stepmother story here. And in the next episode, I will continue with the chapter I will call Escape from Demon Mountain. Okay, so I still don't have anybody that wants to talk to me and tell their story on here. So it's just going to be me telling stories for now. I have another story to tell. You know, you ever have someone tell you something you didn't want to know? It happens to me a lot. The other day, I was at the grocery store. I accidentally struck up a conversation with a man who was probably 55, 60, something like that. I was walking across the parking lot and had to step around some debris that appeared to be from a pretty bad parking lot accident. Now, this man, his name was Randy. He walked around the debris after me, and I looked at him, and all I said was, "How bad of a driver you have to be?" Yeah. Do you know what logorrhea is? It's word diarrhea. It's someone who can't shut up. Randy had logorrhea, and he started talking to me about how he's a truck driver and he sees terrible drivers all the time. Now, I'm not going to subject you to the life review I was subjected to for 45 minutes or so in the grocery store. I'll just say this. I listened to his story because, he needed to tell someone. He needed to talk to somebody. It's obvious he couldn't help himself. But I wish that he would have told me the true story. Because what he was telling me was obviously a story he made up in his head so he could slip out of the reality he was actually living. The point is, this happens to me a lot. People tell me things I would never guess they would tell me. And that brings me to the story I want to tell you today. This one happened when I was working in Arkansas. I had a client there who was a doctor. And we did a walkthrough in his house. It took roughly an hour and a half or so. And he told me all about his family. He and his wife had 6 children. It took another 40 minutes to listen to all their achievements, plaques on the walls everywhere. I know they had lots of grandchildren, but I don't remember the exact number. But, it appeared they had a thriving, large, happy family. And this was a large project I was going to be doing in their home. And wife wanted to make sure I had everything I needed and offered to help with anything I needed help with. She was in a wheelchair and was missing both legs just below the knee. So mostly she was just going to be getting in the way. So what she really meant by help was get in the way while she talks about their life story. So I got to hear all about the children and the grandchildren, and several hours had gone by, and she came to check on me. And I explained everything that was going on. Everything was going well, and I didn't really need anything at the moment. She said, "You haven't asked me what happened to my legs. Aren't you curious?" Ah, man, I just want to work. I don't want to do this. But I said, of course I'm curious, but I'm a professional, you know? You don't ask questions like that. You don't talk to your clients in their home about politics, religion, or how beautiful their daughter is. And you don't ask what happened to your legs. So, yes, I'm curious, but that's why I haven't asked. So, it was obvious I was going to have to ask. It was obvious I was going to have to take a break and hear this. She wasn't going to just let it go. So I asked, "What happened to your legs? What happened?" She said, "I went into a diabetic coma, and when I woke up, my legs had been amputated. My husband, who is a doctor, gave the doctors permission to amputate my legs to, in air quotes, save my life." I winced. I said, "Wow." In my mind, it was a feat that, in my mind, that was simple enough. I thought that would basically be the end of the story, and I could ease back into working on the task at hand, which I did. But she followed me around in her wheelchair. And eventually she said, "Aren't you curious if I actually have diabetes?" Now, when she said that, an electric shock went between my ears and shocked my brain. Oh no. This is going to be one of those stories. I don't want to hear this story. I just want to do my work. But that is not what's going to happen. So I said, "Well, how do you go into a diabetic coma if you don't have diabetes?" She said, "Well, that's the same question I asked." And then she wheeled herself away. What? Oh, no, you didn't. I got work to do, and now she just dropped this juicy whodunit in my brain and wheeled herself away into nowhere. She just wheeled herself away off and disappeared. What the fuck? Now, prior to this conversation, I had an image in my mind about the doctor husband. I was quite admiring him. I felt like I was in the presence of a pillar of the community, and I felt safe. But when she wheeled away, my mind started racing. If you don't have diabetes and you have a doctor husband and you go into a diabetic coma, is your mind going where mine went? I mean, where else could it go? A little while later, she came back to check on me, and I didn't broach the subject, and neither did she. Really, I just wanted to do my work and leave. That's what I wanted to do. But she just kept watching for a while. And then she said to me, "Are you married?" And I wasn't wearing my wedding ring because it gets caught on things. It's kind of dangerous. And so I answered yes. And she said, "Do you have children?" And I answered, "Well, I have a stepdaughter, but no children of my own." And then I just kept working. She was quiet. She's kind of just happily sitting in there in her chair. And then out of nowhere, she says, "Has your wife been faithful?" Oh, this lady. This lady. What the hell? Ugh. So I stopped what I was doing. Now, this is not normal, right? You ever feel like it's just time for an adventure? Well, that's how I felt at that moment. So I answered, "Actually, no, she hasn't been faithful." Hey, she asked, right? I mean, this is getting weird, so here we go. Let's just saddle up. And she asked, "Have you been faithful?" And so I answered, "Yes, I've been faithful." And I, of course, had an annoyed look on my face. And she had a smile on her face. She was having fun. I wasn't having fun. She was having fun. She said, "Why?" So I started explaining to her that my first relationship I have to take care of is the one with myself. If I go around doing things that I told myself I wasn't going to do, I'm cheating on myself and I actually like me. So I'm not going to do that to me. She kind of nodded her head and then she asked, "Why did your wife cheat?" I said, I don't know. Well, who knows the real answer? But I guess it's obvious that her relationship with me wasn't enough to make her happy. So I guess that's why. She asked, "Was your relationship with her enough to make you happy?" I said, "Nope." And she said, "But you didn't cheat." Wow. Is this, is this really happening at work? Is this really happening? Okay. 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 I guess I'm going on an adventure. We're going to go on an adventure. Let's just saddle up and let's go on an adventure and do all the stuff we're not supposed to do at work. So I said, "Well, I guess I'm better than her then." She said, "Are you though?" I said, "Well, to be honest, yes. Yes, I am. I am morally superior in every way. Ask anyone who knows us." And she said, "And so humble." And then she wheeled herself away. And as she was wheeling herself away, she said, "I know someone else like that." Oh, no, you didn't. Fuck you, lady. Fuck you. Just fuck you. Oh, I wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there anymore. A little while later, she came back to check on me again. So I thought, okay, what's next? And I was still fuming from the passive aggressive jab she took at me the last time. Now, this time, she didn't say anything at all for a few minutes. She just watched. I knew it was coming. And she said, "You're kind of a slow learner, aren't you?" So I just smiled and I glanced at her and kind of gritted my teeth. And I said, "What are you trying to teach me?" And she said, "How to ask questions." I said, "Okay." So I asked a question. "Has your husband been faithful?" And she looked at me and she wheeled herself away again. And as she was wheeling herself away, she said, "Wrong question." And then she disappeared. I just wanted to choke her. I just wanted to choke her at this time, but also I was kind of having fun. And she could tell I was kind of having fun. And I think she was having more fun than me, but she was making me uncomfortable and making me have fun at the same time. I don't know how she was doing this, but this is what was going on. I still remember that smirk on her face as she was wheeling herself away. And a little while later, she came back. And again, she didn't say anything. I looked at her and she just smiled and watched. "Okay, I'll play." So I said, "Have you been faithful to your husband?" She smiled and said, "You only had to take the class 3 times, but you passed." She answered, "What do you think?" And then she wheeled herself away again. Oh, so I thought next time I'm going to screw her wheelchair to the floor so she can't do this power move anymore. And she came back again, and it was the same routine. And then she asked, after, a long, just sitting there and annoying me with silence and watching, she said, "What did you do when you found out your wife was cheating?" So I said, "That's the wrong question. Now go away and come back with the right question." And, well, she didn't. She didn't wheel herself away this time. Nope. She said, "I was not faithful to my husband, but he was never here. Before he retired, we might as well have been divorced." So, no, I was not faithful. And I think I have the right question. She said, "What did you want to do when you found out your wife was cheating?" And I gave her a side eye and I said, "You've done this before. That's the right question." She smiled. "So, what's the answer?" she said. I said, "I wanted to chop my own dick off, divorce her, and crawl in a hole." Now, she tilted her head like a curious dog because she was not expecting that. And then she said, "What do you mean chop your own dick off? Why didn't you want to chop her dick off?" I said, because I'm morally superior, remember? She said, self-flagellation is not moral superiority. It's self-righteousness, the lowest form of morality. Okay, so slowly, but I'm learning the rules to the game now. What did your husband want to do when he found out you had cheated? She answered, my husband always accomplishes whatever he wants to accomplish. I looked at her directly in the eyes, and she looked at me directly in my eyes. And then she looked down at her legs, and then she wheeled herself away.
A ring in between, I heard my cell calling. I felt a vibe in my right pocket, I might cop it. I tried to keep all its lights off of my eye sockets, but I reached forward and it pulled me down. I was falling like a meteor, I hit the ground. I didn't feel a thing, but yet the phone still would ring. I was getting annoyed by the sound, I want to guillotine. I saw the caller ID, blurry at first, the words I saw were R.I.P. I didn't know what it would signify, trying to see. I realized it was the birth of who I'm dying to be. I wanna be the kind of person who can lift me up off the negatives of everything that is addicting and false. So if I seem unusual, don't pick me apart. I'm barely getting to the pieces that I skipped from the start. First I started with my therapy. I was hiding all my emotions, and then apparently if you hold them for long, they blow up so hysterically. They mumble in your head and repeat it like it's a parakeet. Had to go inside my mind and find the things that I knew, repairing the damage I grew with all the things that I do. So if I seem unusual, don't kick me, I'm due to open up the chamber of secrets, I'm thinking it through. It's been sealed up cause I marinate, soaking in the past of my traumas, I wanna barricade. I am but a victim of drama, I thought to serenade. Mix it all together, the flavors have an apparent taste. So if you wanna know what I infuse, it's all premature like the baby I induced. Jesus Christ, can you nail me up on the cruise? I'm about to find it loose. I will drink your blood cause I'm thirsty, cause all my mind is used. At such a high rate that all the things that I want appear as I wait. I want to sit and be still, my senses dilate. I imagine I'm really calm inside of a time gate, where I can finally ask the questions I want, and they'll be answered by a being who is selflessly taught to enlighten my inhibitions that are viciously caught inside a cycle that I'm tired of, I'm living to taunt. Instead of taking pills or medicate, I recommend taking time just to meditate. You'll see the power in your confidence, it'll elevate. Give yourself a victory worthy enough to celebrate. You want to keep yourself in check and not the things you regret, cause it's hard enough to accept all the things we neglect. Although our body soul isn't seen to reject, all the pain that we keep inside's an immediate threat. You want to find a way to let go. Pain is persistent and can linger like it's an echo. Trying to change what is true to you, you say heck no. Lift your self-esteem up cause it was kept low. You wanna be the type of person who is drawn to the truth, filled with enthusiasm and is fond of the youth. So if you feel inspired, we can rip out the roots and sort the weeds from our thinking and leave only the fruits. Live in freedom but be self-aware. When you're full of yourself, it stinks, man, it smells in there. That's why no one approaches you or respects or cares what you think or have to say, it just melts with air. So to leave with this last impression, I gotta breathe and receive enough air to get past the tension. If you only knew of my last confession, I became a better person cause of bad depression.
I don't